And I say, you see, the problem is we live a lie. Let me put it this way, and I've been around here. President Kibaki started the free primary education. Then President Uhuru, actually Kibaki never attempted free secondary education. President Uhuru came with the subsidized. It was supposed to be subsidized secondary education. Then somehow he escalated it to free. We don't have the capacity as at now to finance free primary, free secondary. And I will explain to you. If you check our debt repayment 5 years ago, it was very low. Today,
yes,
our...
1 minute, please.
I'm following Honorable and CS Mbadi with my third year, and he has done very well. For the first time, and press, I hope you're following, we've been told 50% has been released in full, and that 30% has been released in full. I would wish he concentrates on that without even going to the debts. If we are not funding, you have not released 80% of the 22,000, to be specific, 244.
Yeah.
So you have released 80% of what? This conversation will continue very well. We are not against anyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Order, again?
Yes, Madam Chair, I ride on it. Because the government has been lying. Why can't you say 80% of 16,000 or 80% of 17,000? Because the amount that you have been providing, if you hand up what you are giving to an individual child, is how much? It is better you say that you are able to provide 17,000 and not to use 22,000 as reference point. Because there is no time that you have attained that amount. So give the Kenyans the right figures.
Chair, just on the same, when the CS says that the money is not enough for expectation, what is the difference between expectation and a budget? And who is talking about this expectation? Is it not about the Kenyan government, or it is the people's expectation?
Yeah, just let me
proceed.
Let me put it into perspective. Actually, I borrowed the words of Honorable Mboko Mlemba. He's asked me specifically the inconsistency between the expectation and the budget. And that is what I'm addressing. And by the way, let us not live a lie. The budget we provide cannot give 22,000 to each child. In Kenya, it is not possible. It is less.
Chair, then allow schools to charge the difference.
Please, Orero,
can I
order,
just
please.
answer? Because
Orero, order, please.
Chair.
Okay, go ahead. Proceed, CS.
My friend Honorable Orero, you can't get an answer from me, which I don't have. Let me give you the answer. The answer is this, that because of the financial pressures in this country, we are under-providing for the per capita allocation per child in Kenya. If you take all the children in Kenya who are in high school, senior secondary school, if you take all of them and divide with our budget, which we give them, it is less than 22,000 shillings. That is what I'm saying. Yet, what we have provided is the full budgetary allocation. What I'm trying to say is that Treasury has never failed to release the money that is in the budget. And by the way, the budget is provided by National Assembly. It's not the National Treasury.
Chair.
So let me just put it this way. Chair, if I'm allowed to answer, I will have answered the question.
Chair,
you see,
maybe can intervene something. CPM,
can I just finish
just
this?
Just a minute before you finish. Chair, there's something, CS, with all due respect. CPA Mbadi is very sharp in playing with figures. I'd like you to come direct, CPA Mbadi, and tell us, FCPA, sorry. This, we talked about 22,244. How much had been allocated? Because you talk about 50%, 30% of the budget, but they're not saying this budget. For the sake of the Kenyan who is watching and following, tell us the budget is 16,000, then you've given 50%. Rather than saying the budget, because somebody in Turkana does not know the budget. Somebody in Luanda, where I come from, does not know that budget, but you know the budget. Can you tell us and tell Kenyans what is the budget which was approved by this committee, and how much of it have you given out? Thank you.
You see, like for example, the senior school is supposed to get about 54 billion. If you get 80%, you'll find about 43 billion. So, if you calculate the total budget for the year, and honorable members, I wish it is what we could address. If you look at the total budget for the year and you divide by the number of students we have in this country, instead of 22,000, we are funding up to about 16,900 shillings. So,
Chair.
So, but
Chair.
if you look at the budget, now what is it that I've said there which requires?
Just,
point of order? I've just worked the figures. And unless you want me to lie to this committee, I don't want to mislead the committee. Yeah, because
Chair,
you are the
Chair.
committee which look at the budget.
Chair, let's protect the minister.
Yeah,
It's
allow
okay.
me just
No,
to
the
present the
minister-
figures. You may agree with me or you may disagree, but
Yeah.
those are the facts.
Come on, please.
So that we don't have.
So
that-
what I was saying as 80% is the total quantum budget that we have allocated, and so we release 50% of it. Then we release 30% of it. Then we release 20% of it. As to whether it is enough for all the children in this country, it is not. If we work with 22,000 per child for senior secondary school and the 15,000 per child for the junior secondary school, and we work with 1,400 plus per child for free primary education, you will get higher figures than what is in the budget. That is what I'm trying to say. And I gave an example of the senior school that instead of supporting 22,000, we support about 17,000. And that is why you will hear teachers, head teachers, principals saying that the government owes them money. And recently I said that you can't claim that the government owes you money when the budget that was provided for that year was disbursed in full. The thing is that we have been underfunding. And the reason I moved forward to talk about what I was saying, which Honorable Mboko was contesting. I wanted to demonstrate to you the reasons why the government is finding it difficult to finance each child at 22,000, in junior school at 15,000, and in primary at 1,400, because we have other competing needs for funds. Hence, that underfunding. The competing needs, I started with the debt repayment. The reason why probably 5 years or 7 years ago we were able to meet the requirements, apart from the fact that we adopted a free secondary education, was also because that time the debt repayment was low. Now the debt repayment is high, and it is said everywhere, putting a strain on our resources, hence impairing our ability to meet it. But we are struggling as a government to make sure that we don't unduly underfund education. So that is what I was explaining, and you can use that information that we are not funding education as it should be funded. We are facing those challenges.
Yes,
another...
my issue, my problem
Chair.
is that in your submission, you should have acknowledged. You were telling us it's 22, it is this much. Why did you not acknowledge that you are aware? Put a rider. Both of you did not do that. You should have been honest with us and tell us, yes, it is 22, but then we'd know that you're also aware that there is a challenge. But when you continue as if it is actually 22, and if we didn't interrogate, we'd have left the room thinking it's 22. Thank you.
Wasn't that
Chair,
part of the budget, the
Chair.
22?
Yeah.
The
Madam
22
Chair,
was in the budget.
Madam Chair.
Have the floor, then Honorable CS Education and National Treasury. Why then don't you review the policy so that we are not living a lie and we say, let's get an average for the last 3 financial years. How much is tenable? How much can we afford? So that for purposes of planning, for purposes of predictability, so that parents are advised accordingly, we know that what government can afford is 16,000 or 17,000. So that now the rest can be other avenues, alternatives can be explored as to how to fill the gap, to be able to provide
Chair,
education.
just give me 1 minute. For purposes of sobriety, I think, Madam Chair, the naked truth that CS Mbadi has told us should actually have been the beginning of things. For one, CS Mbadi and the Minister for Education, and even us in Parliament, once Parliament approves the budget, then the Minister of Education does a circular to the teachers of Kenya and the minister and everyone else that the capitation for children of Kenya is no longer 22 because Parliament has passed 16,900.
Yes.
So it is now our business again, Madam Chair, that this is the dawning reality, that we now go back as members of Parliament and in the next supplementary budget, bridge the gap between 16,900 to 22,000 shillings so that you issue a circular that is proper rather than issuing a circular of 22 and it is less.
Chair, but the policy document states 22,000. That is what we approved. So, you know, getting other issues is a non-issue here, Chair.
Chair.
Because we should have been told that this policy document is not working. Yeah, simple.
Chair, I will be very sober in the last question. Almost similar to that. Did we approve 22, 244 per learner, or did we approve the 16 which you have spoken about? And then secondly, to the CS education. And kudos to Honorable Mbadi. He has indicated the money is 16. But the CS education, I want to tell you, CS Mbadi, your brother takes to schools 10,000. Already it's small. Why are you deducting money for infrastructure, 5,000? You know, I have all the notes here. Why are you deducting another 1,750? So that even from the 16, what is going to school is 10. Let me tell you this. In 2008, because I sat in the Muiria Commission, the money that went to school in 2008, if I may be very specific, was higher than what you have sent in schools last year. In 2008, what Kibaki sent to school was 10,642. In last year, you sent 10,422. It can't work.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm Peter Masara, MP for Sona West. There was a question I raised sometimes back in February, of which part of it is what you are discussing. I've seen the response given, but there's an omission on the ECD part, which I've not seen the written submission. Chair, on the issue of capitation, which was part of my question, I think the ministry is not very honest. I've done my own research. Their main problem is the number of students in our schools and the statistics they have at the ministry are totally different. That's why they get a big problem. There are schools with a population of 1,000 and they are being funded with 400 or 500 students. So with the gap of the student which are not funded is a half, and even this half is not fully funded. That's why our schools are not fully operationalized. So my humble submission, Chair, based on what I've read concerning the response, it's not satisfactory. Maybe they didn't have the data, so they need to give the Kenyans and the Parliament, they need to guide the Parliament because Parliament do not have figures. We get figures from the ministry. We don't have officers at the sub-county level to collect for us data of number of students who are supposed to be funded. Chair, if we don't solve this problem now, before the next financial year, schools are going to close. Reason why I'm saying this, we talk of pending bills, but the pending bill for high schools and primary school is not captured because these schools have debts which they have not paid to their suppliers based on the circular they were given. They were supposed to get 22 and they are not getting. Therefore, some truth need to be told by the ministry so that we can move forward.
CS, I think, can we allow the CS to conclude his responses?
Chair, actually, there's really little to add on to that issue. I've given the answer, the reason why there's discrepancy between what actually goes to the school vis-a-vis, the entire budget is disbursed. But the number of children are more. So it means if you take per capita or the per child allocation and you multiply by the number of children, you will get a higher figure, which is not in the budget. Secondly, policy informs the budget. And so we try as much as possible to meet. So, Chair, we try as much as possible to meet the provisions of the policy. Now, as to what we need to do to be able to fund education in this country properly, I want to just say something, and it may rattle the honorable members, but that is the truth. That these monies that we have all over the place, we could consolidate them. For example, if you give me back NGCDF, give me 40% that you have allocated to bursaries, give it back to me. It is going to be over 20 billion, 22. Give it back to me.
It is going to disappear to the ministry.
I added to capitation.
No, it will disappear to the ministry.
We are looking for solution.
Order.
We
have seen it before. We have seen it before.
Honorable Orero.
No, we know what happens because we are there.
That's why you are funding most schools.
You know, what we could do is give it back to me. Then we look for ways of making sure that we finance the children of Kenya without any school fee being paid. Just give it back to me. And I add it to the capitation. That's what I'm requesting.
Not through the ministry.
Now let me answer the other issues. I think the others were for my colleague, for Imase. Why has the funds infrastructure not reached schools? I want to say again.
Let's allow him to go through and then we'll just come back.
Let me just move quickly. I think my colleague will answer the rest, if you allow me. On why the funds have not reached the schools, I think the CS Education will address us. Funding universities, Presidential Working Party, am I aware that the committee does not recognize? I am not. Actually, if there is a problem with it, with the report, it has not been made aware to me. So the moment
not a problem.
It's not the problem with the committee. What the member said, that report has never been tabled in Parliament. It has never been adopted by Parliament. Therefore, it cannot be used in any parliamentary proceeding.
Okay. So I'm not aware that there was such a problem. Now, I wanted just to pick